The day he left, he took everything. The car, the savings, even the kids' cereal from the cabinet. He left me with 3 children, an empty fridge, and exactly $7.
$7. That was all I had in the world. And you want to know the part that made it worse? He had been planning this for months. And I had no idea, not even a clue. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning. Because to understand where I ended up, you need to understand where I started. My name is Sarah, and this is not a story I ever planned to tell. I was 31 years old, 3 kids. Maya was 8, Daniel was 5, and little Lily had just turned 3. She still called her dad Dada and would run to the door every time she heard footsteps in the hallway outside our apartment. She'd stop, look at the door, wait, and then toddle back to her toys. She did that for weeks, every single day, and every single time, something cracked a little more inside me. For 11 years, I had been a wife, a mother, a woman who made sure everyone else was okay before she thought about herself. I cooked, I cleaned, I gave up my career. I moved cities twice for his job. I smiled at his mother's little comments. I said yes to everything. And the one time I needed him to stay, he chose to leave. He left on a Tuesday, while I was at the grocery store. I came home with 3 bags of food and a lighter heart because I want you to know this. The night before, he had been different, softer. He had hugged me in the kitchen. I had gone to bed thinking, maybe things are turning around. But when I walked in, the house felt too quiet. His shoes were gone from the doorway, the closet half empty, and on the kitchen counter, a single piece of paper. "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore." 9 words. 11 years of my life. 9 words. But what I didn't know yet was that those 9 words were the least painful thing he'd left behind. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat at the kitchen table and counted everything I had. $7.42. I had formula for Lily for maybe 2 more days. Daniel needed new shoes. His were so worn the sole was peeling off, and I'd been stuffing cardboard inside so he wouldn't feel the concrete. Maya's school had a field trip coming up and needed $5 for the permission slip. $5. I didn't have it. I called the bank. I already knew what they'd say, but I called anyway. The joint account, the one I thought we shared, had been emptied 3 days before he left. Not all at once, quietly, a little each week for months so I wouldn't notice. He had been stealing from our family, slowly, carefully, while I was doing his laundry. I put the phone down and didn't cry. I was too shocked to cry. I just stared at the ceiling fan turning slowly above me while my 3 children slept in the next room, not knowing their entire world had just changed. The next day, I did what I had to do. I took those $7 into the grocery store, and I stood in the aisle for almost 20 minutes doing math in my head. Rice, $1.79. Beans, 89 cents, eggs, $2.40, bananas, $1.10, cooking oil, 98 cents. Total, $7.16, 26 cents left. The woman behind me in line had a full cart, wine, steaks, a birthday cake. She was laughing on her phone, and I quietly paid for my small bag with exact change, trying not to make eye contact with the cashier. That night, I made rice and beans and told the kids it was my secret recipe. Maya looked at me across the table, 8 years old. eyes that already knew too much.
Mama, is this all we have?
I smiled. It's my special beans, baby, the best ones. She nodded slowly. She didn't believe me, but she picked up her fork and ate every bite. And then she quietly scraped the last spoonful from the pot onto Daniel's plate when she thought I wasn't looking. 8 years old, already learning to carry others. What I didn't know that night was that the worst hadn't come yet. Not even close. 2 days later, I did something I had never done in my life. I asked for help. I drove to his mother's house with all 3 kids, Lily on my hip, Daniel holding my hand, Maya walking behind us, quiet and watchful the way she always was. I knocked on the door, told her what happened, told her I needed help. Just groceries, just $50 to keep the lights on. 1 week, that's all I was asking for. She looked at me, then at my children, then back at me. And she said, slowly, clearly, so there was no misunderstanding, "Well, maybe if you'd been a better wife, he wouldn't have had to leave." Then she closed the door. I walked back to the car, strapped the kids in, turned the radio up, and then Daniel, 5 years old, said from the back seat,
"Grandma doesn't like us anymore, does she?"
I gripped the steering wheel so hard my hands shook. "Grandma's just having a hard day, baby," I said. I lied to protect him, and I hated that I had to. The cruelest part wasn't what she said. The cruelest part was that for one horrible second, I almost believed her. In the weeks that followed, the truth started coming out, and the truth was worse than the leaving. He had someone else, a woman he'd been seeing for almost 2 years. 2 years! While I was cutting grocery coupons, he was spending our money on someone else. That explained the empty account, the late nights, the coldness. Every time I had tried to talk about our marriage, he'd made me feel like the problem was me. Now I knew why. But the moment that broke something open in me, it wasn't finding out about her. It was a Tuesday afternoon at the school. I went to pick up Maya, and the office called me in. Her lunch account was overdue, $22. They said they couldn't let her charge more meals. The secretary said it quietly, professionally, but the other parent standing nearby heard, and Maya was standing right there. She looked at the floor, her face went red. My brave, proud 8-year-old, humiliated in front of her school. She didn't say anything on the drive home, but when we got inside, she went to her room, closed the door, and I heard her crying through the wall, quietly, so I wouldn't hear. She was protecting me from her own pain. That sound, my daughter crying quietly so I wouldn't feel bad, that was the moment I stopped feeling sorry for myself. Because something changed in me that afternoon, something that couldn't be undone. People don't talk enough about the loneliness of single motherhood, not the loneliness of being without a partner, the loneliness of being the only one responsible for every single thing, every decision, every fear, every 3 a.m. moment when someone woke up sick. One night, about a month in, I heard a noise in the kitchen at midnight. I walked out and found Daniel standing at the open refrigerator in the dark, just staring at it. "Baby, what are you doing?" I whispered. "I was checking if the food was still there," he said. "Sometimes I get scared it goes away." 5 years old. My 5-year-old son was waking up at midnight to check if there was food. I picked him up, held him tight, and carried him back to bed. I sang to him until he fell asleep, and then I sat on the edge of his bed in the dark and made myself a promise. I didn't know how yet, but I was going to fix this, whatever it took. The next week, I applied for emergency assistance from the county. I waited 3 hours at the office with all 3 kids. Lily wouldn't stop crying. Daniel kept asking for snacks I didn't have. Maya sat next to me like a little adult, reading an old magazine to distract herself. When they finally called my name, I sat across from a woman with a clipboard and explained everything. I had brought every document I could find. She typed for a while, then she looked up. Unfortunately, your application was denied. Your household income, based on your husband's last tax filing, puts you above the threshold. His income, filed 6 months ago when he was still here. But he's gone, I said. He emptied the bank account. I have $7. She looked at me with something between sympathy and bureaucratic helplessness. I'm sorry, you'd need to reapply in 60 days with updated documentation. 60 days. I gathered my children and walked out of that office into the cold air, and I thought, the system was built assuming someone would stay. Nobody built it for the woman left behind. The breaking point came on a Thursday. 3 envelopes in the mailbox, a shut-off notice from the electric company, a late rent warning, and a letter from a lawyer. His lawyer. He was filing for limited custody. Not because he wanted them. His lawyer had advised him it would reduce his support payments. He hadn't called his children once in 2 months. Not once. No birthday call for Lily, no check-in for Daniel's first week at a new school, nothing. And now, they were a calculation. I sat on the front step in the November cold and read that letter twice. Lily was on my lap. She had no idea what I was holding.
She looked up at me and said, "Mama, you're shaking." Then she put her tiny hand on my cheek and said, "I'll warm you up."
3 years old. I closed my eyes, and I thought of my own mother, ironing her uniform at 5 a.m., saying grace over the smallest meals, never once telling me life was too hard. I folded that letter, put it in my pocket, stood up. I am her daughter, and my children are watching me right now. That was the night everything began to change. Not in the world around me, inside me. And what happened next, I never saw coming. 2 days after that letter, I was at the library using their free computers to apply for jobs. 17 applications in 3 weeks. 17 rejections, or silence, which felt worse. I was 5 years out of the workforce. I had left my bookkeeping job when Lily was born because we had agreed, he had decided and I had agreed, that I would stay home. Another thing that had only ever benefited him. That afternoon, I overheard a woman at the next desk telling the librarian about a part-time bookkeeping position at a local business. Her friend owned it and couldn't find anyone. I don't know what came over me. I stood up and walked over and said, "I used to do bookkeeping before my children were born. I'm available." She looked me up and down. I had a stain on my coat I couldn't fully get out. My hair was in a rushed bun. I probably didn't look like much. But she gave me a number, and I called it from the library payphone that same hour. The interview was the next morning. I borrowed a blazer from my neighbor, did my makeup while the kids ate cereal. Maya stood in the bathroom doorway, watching me. Then she said, "Wait, Mama." She ran to her room and came back with a tiny clip-on earring, one of her favorites, a little blue star. She clipped it on my collar. "For good luck," she said. I walked into that interview with a child's blue star on my lapel. I got the job. I want to tell you the truth. It didn't get easy overnight. This is not that kind of story. There were still weeks of counting every dollar, still nights of eating less so the kids could have more, still moments of crying in the shower because it was the only private place I had. But I was working, and working gave me back something that had been quietly taken from me, myself. My boss, Mr. Harrington, had raised 2 kids alone after his wife passed. He never asked about my situation. He just gave me fair work and said good job when I deserved it. That simple decency from a near stranger meant more than he'll ever know. Because when the people who should have stayed walk out, sometimes it's a stranger who keeps you standing. And just when I started to believe things were turning around, something happened that nearly undid all of it. 3 months into the job, I got sick. Nothing dramatic, just a bad flu that knocked me out for 4 days. 4 days of no work meant 4 days of no pay. And that month, it was the difference between making rent and not. I had to call my landlord, a quiet, older woman named Mrs. Okafor, and explain. I was fully prepared to be told I had until the end of the week. Instead, she said, "You've paid every month since you moved in. Take the week. Pay me when you can." I cried after I hung up. Not from sadness, from the shock of someone choosing kindness. The world had spent months showing me its worst. I had forgotten it was also capable of this. I paid her back 12 days later with a note that said, "Thank you for believing I was good for it." She slipped a note under my door that same evening. It said, "I always knew." Month by month, things shifted, quietly, the way real change happens. Not in one dramatic moment, but in 100 small ones. A raise after 4 months, more hours, a better apartment in a safer neighborhood with a yard, and the custody case. I won. Not because I had the better lawyer, I couldn't afford one, but because I had 11 years of paper trail. Every doctor's visit, every school form, every permission slip signed. The judge looked at the record and saw what he had never bothered to see. I had always been there. He got limited visitation and was ordered to pay support. He wasn't happy, but for the first time, the system saw me. That evening, I told the kids we were celebrating. We got ice cream, real ice cream, not the store brand kind. Daniel got 2 scoops and wore most of it on his face. Lily laughed so hard she fell off her chair. Maya looked at me across the table and said, "Mama, you seem different lately." I asked her how. She thought for a second. "Stronger," she said. I was, and I was about to find out exactly how much stronger in the most unexpected place. About a year after he left, I was standing in that same grocery store. The same one where I had counted $7 worth of rice and beans. My cart wasn't full. I was still careful, still watched prices. But I had enough. Enough for the week. Enough for the kids' lunches. Enough for a small box of the chocolate cookies Lily loved, the ones I used to put back on the shelf. I put them in the cart. And I stood there in that aisle, and I noticed I was standing differently. Shoulders back, head up. Not because life was perfect, it wasn't, but because I had been through the worst, and I was still here. I thought about who I was in that same aisle a year ago, counting change with shaking hands, invisible, afraid. And I thought about who I was now. Still carrying a lot, still figuring it out, but free. Lily reached up from the cart and put her little hand on mine. "Mama, can we get the cookies?" I looked at her, those big eyes, that little hopeful face. "Yes, baby," I said. "We can get the cookies." She cheered like I'd just given her the world. Maybe I had. A week later, I ran into him. Not planned, a parking lot near the kids' school. He was with his mother. He looked different, older, tired. I had heard through someone mutual that the relationship he had left for was already over. He was back near his mother, starting over, not the fresh start he had imagined. He saw me from across the lot, and I watched his face change, because he saw me too, and I was different. I was standing with Maya, who had just had her 9th birthday. She was wearing her dance bag. She had started lessons, something she'd always wanted. I had made it happen. He raised his hand in a half wave, uncertain. I looked at him for a long moment. Not with hate, not with sadness, with something quieter and more powerful than both. I nodded and walked to my car. On the drive home, Maya said, "Was that Daddy?" I said yes. She was quiet for a moment. Then, "He looked sad." "I know, baby," I said. She reached over and held my hand on the gear shift, said nothing else. She didn't need to. It wasn't dramatic, not like the movies. It was quieter than that. It felt like exhaling, like finally putting down something very heavy that had never been mine to carry in the first place. If you are in the middle of your $7 moment, I need you to hear this. It won't feel like it's going to work. The math won't add up. The people who should have shown up won't. There will be nights when the silence is so loud it hurts, and you'll question everything, including yourself. But you are not what happened to you. You are not what he said. You are not what his family believed. You are not the empty account or the shut-off notice or the 9 words on a piece of paper. You are the woman who got up, who made rice and beans feel like love, who cried in the shower so her children wouldn't hear, who walked into interviews with a borrowed blazer and a child's lucky earring. You are the woman who stayed. $7 can't buy dignity, but it can keep 3 children alive while their mother finds her way back to herself. And she will. She always does. I know, because I was her, and I found my way, and so will you.